A while ago, I was exposed to Static Shock from a YouTube video, and at the time I knew nothing about the show and basically heard nobody really talking about it. Fast forward about 2 years later, one day I decided I'm gonna watch Static Shock, and not gonna lie, I don't regret it one bit. Honestly, the show made me appreciate Static Shock as a character and as a show. Static Shock does such a great job of mixing jokes and humor while also capturing real life issues and experiences. But before I get into the show, let's go back to where it all started, the comics. Static Shock originally started in 1993 with his first comic by the comic book company Milestone Comics, which was basically a black-oriented artist and writer group. He got so popular that he eventually became a part of DC. The show even had a crossover episode with two different Batman, Bruce Wayne and Terry McGinnis, the Batman from Batman Beyond, which are probably some of my favorite moments from the show. Around 7 years later, after Static Shock's introduction in the comics, we got the TV show Static Shock, which went on for 4 seasons. Static Shock did a great job of talking about things in a way that made these touchy but important topics educational for viewers that other shows during this time didn't cover. So let's start with the one and only Virgil Hawkins, also known as Static. Virgil's origin starts with his involvement with a gang. One day he gets dragged to the Dakota docks where he takes part in a gang war. The police eventually pull up and an officer in a helicopter throws a tear gas grenade which causes an explosion, letting out purple gas. This was later called the Big Bang. The next day, Virgil wakes up and finds out that he's a bang baby who has electromagnetic powers causing him to stick to stuff, and this causes Virgil to eventually become Static. Now, the reason why I love this show so much is how its episodes are structured. The way it's able to keep the elements of a teenager superhero while also showing the human side of daily life makes it unforgettable for me. Some of my favorite episodes have to be the ones that teach a lesson, like the one with Richie's dad and when Virgil goes back in time to try to save his mother. But before I continue talking about everything else in Static Shock, I want to talk about these episodes, specifically the one with Richie's dad first, Sons of the Fathers. For the people who are new to my channel or can't tell, I'm black, so to see this type of episode in the show, it was kind of what made me fall in love with it. For the people who haven't watched this episode, this focuses on the topic of race. Sometime during this episode, Virgil basically asks Richie to come over to his house. Richie is basically the guy in the chair and helps make gadgets for Virgil. Throughout the episode, we see the bigotry of Richie's dad, Mr. Foley, and at some point, Virgil's dad, Mr. Hawkins, checks him for his nature and how it's causing problems between him and Richie. By the end of the episode, Mr. Foley and Richie are able to make up. Another one of my favorite episodes is the time when Virgil travels back in time to save his mother. This episode tackled the aspect of loss and really was an emotional episode for not only the viewers but also for Virgil. In the episode Flashback, Virgil talks to Richie about losing the memory of his mom, and long story short, Virgil and Richie come across a girl named Nina, also called Time Zone, who can time travel. In a fight against Eobon, one of the main villains of Static Shock, the group ends up back in time when Virgil's mom was still alive, and when he finds her and saves her, he reveals his identity to her. She tells him how proud she is of him and hugs him. Virgil asks her to stay safe, but she says that there are people who need her help. Virgil says goodbye after being called by Richie. There's some other stuff with Eobon, but he gets stopped like usual. Virgil goes home and looks for his mom, but doesn't find her. He asks why didn't she stay safe, and his father explains that she wasn't someone to stay on the sidelines. He hugs Virgil and says that he thinks that she would be very proud of him. Virgil looks at a picture of his mom and smiles as he finally comes to terms with her death. There are some other episodes that I didn't talk about in this video that also cover important topics, but if you guys want another video on Static Shock, let me know. But back to what I was talking about. This episode really was an enjoyable episode for me, and it goes to show that Static Shock isn't afraid to address and talk about the things that happen in day-to-day life. Static Shock really is a great watch, and if you haven't already watched it, at least check out one episode. But besides the teaching and lesson learning aspect of Static Shock, this show really does do a great job of keeping you invested in not only Virgil, but also Richie and even some of the side characters and villains. And not only that, but to be honest, Static Shock really does put on for black culture. Outside of black superheroes a part of a team like Cyborg and Storm, Static Shock really was the only black superhero to get his own standalone show at the time. Static Shock really is a cultural phenomenon, and I'm glad to have been exposed to it so long ago. Shout out RDC. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite moment or episode from Static Shock was, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.